Hello everyone. Today I want to do something a little bit different, and that is I wanted to do a book review. And the book in question is Snakes in Suits When Psychopaths Go to Work. And this book is by Paul Babiak and Robert Hare. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it is a book designed to give you a little preview of psychopathy, how to work with difficult coworkers and managers, and just some things that you can do to protect yourselves while you are working with these people, because too many times they come in and can just leave an organization in shambles. So I did a lot of research for this review, made a lot of notes, and hopefully I have condensed it down enough because I don't want to sit here and do everything but read you the book. So, Snakes in Suits When Psychopaths Go to Work. The first thing to understand, and I don't know if you've noticed, I do. Yes, I need all the glasses to do this video because I need to read, I need to study, I need all the glasses. So anyway, let me continue. The first thing to understand is that not all psychopaths turn to a life of crime, and not all criminals are psychopaths. Just having a psychopathic personality disorder does not make someone a criminal. Some people with this disorder lead normal lives. However, they do not make warm and loving parents, they do not make good romantic partners, and they do not make good friends and coworkers. So what is psychopathy? Many people are confused. Apparently I'm confused. Excuse me. Many people are confused about the difference between psychopathy, sociopathy, and antisocial personality disorder, which are related, but these are not identical conditions. For the purposes of this book, psychopathy is a personality disorder. Psychopaths are without conscience and incapable of empathy or guilt. They only have loyalty unto themselves. Sociopathy, this is not a formal psychiatric condition. It refers to patterns of attitudes and behaviors that are considered antisocial criminally by society at large. But these are seen as normal by the social environment in which the person developed in. Their sense of right and wrong are based on the norms of the social environment in which they are raised. So if you are raised that every time you go out to dinner, everyone steals a roll of toilet paper and brings it back to the car, that way you never have to buy toilet paper, well, most of us would view that as stealing. That is a social norm within a group, within a way that somebody was raised, so they would see that as normal. Other people would see that as a criminal act. Antisocial personality disorder, this is a broad diagnostic category. This is similar to sociopathy. Some people with this disorder are psychopaths, but many are not. The difference is that psychopathy includes personality traits such as lack of empathy, grandiosity, and shallow emotion that are not necessary for a diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder. But APD, or antisocial personality disorder, is more common than psychopathy. So this is something that started to begin to be studied in the early 1900s by Hervey Cleckley, who wrote the classic text on psychopathy called The Mask of Sanity. This was originally published in 1941, and it is now in several editions. I believe it is in the 5th edition, if I'm not mistaken. Hervey was an MD who worked as a psychiatrist in a psychiatric facility, and he had the opportunity to study the patients who were being treated. Hervey noticed that despite having a normal level of intelligence, These patients made poor life judgments and didn't learn from their personal experiences, which caused them to repeat dysfunctional and unfruitful behaviors. They lacked insight regarding themselves and the impact their behavior had on people around them. They also lacked remorse and shame and cared little about the feelings of other people. They were noticeably unreliable and had no goals or life plans. Most obvious of all, the patients were consummate liars. People with this personality disorder appear on the surface to be normal, sane, in control, and are quite likable. Many are highly intelligent. So psychopaths have several skills and abilities that can make them difficult to detect. They are usually motivated and have a talent for reading people. They are adept at sizing up a person's likes, dislikes, motives, needs, weak spots, and vulnerabilities. Psychopaths are social chameleons, as they can hide who they really are and mask their intentions from their victims. It should be noted, however, that if a charming approach does not work, psychopaths will and do readily resort to both covert and overt intimidation. While on the surface, psychopaths want to come across as successful, many are actually playing out a parasitic lifestyle. They prefer living off the work of others rather than their own efforts. Being a drifter, moocher, wastrel is a common choice. I'm not saying that is always the choice. I'm saying it's a common choice. Psychopaths also tend to believe that other people exist just to take care of them. Excuse me while I shuffle my papers here. So, how does this affect the rest of us? There is an assumption made by employees and managers that those who have made it through the hiring process, which I know at some places I've been at, has actually been quite rigorous with the testing and this personality testing, and then some more testing, and then a panel interview, an individual interview, and then top 3 finalist interview, etc., etc. So they make it through this rigorous hiring process. So we think that they're honest people with personal integrity. Unfortunately, those two qualities, honesty and integrity, are mostly tested on a very superficial level. There is also an assumption that others are disposed towards honesty, and many people do not assume that coworkers came in with an ulterior motive. Most of us are very trusting of those we work with. Since most people want to work in order to make a living, the work ethic is ingrained from a young age. You know, paper routes, mowing lawn, babysitting, taking pride in being able to buy something for yourself or save up the money to do an activity. Psychopaths, though, do not adhere to this fair exchange model of work with their sense of entitlement. Their work ethic is geared toward making themselves look good rather than actually doing a good job. So when psychopaths start at an agency or a corporation, they do a few things. The first thing they do is try and meet as many people as possible. This is so they can spread a positive first impression of themselves and collect information. They can assess each coworker's short and long range utility or value. Corporate psychopaths use the first few months of employment to study, understand, and penetrate organizational barriers. Step 2 is building a power base. So getting close to people in power is not always easy, as they are in meeting after meeting after meeting, or they are traveling, etc., and tend to be have their calendars just completely overloaded. However, new employees are generally given a honeymoon period when they first come on board to learn their jobs. A clever and motivated psychopath can rely on organizational naivety to approach individuals in power during this phase, brazenly disregarding the chain of command. It starts simply in elevators, hallways, and eventually leads to corporate offices. And to others in the organization, this can come across as ambition and enthusiasm. So people just kind of overlook it and think someone is just so excited to start work at this company. Psychopaths also need people in supporting roles, so they have to convince others of their honesty, integrity, and sincerity. For this, they need to identify and manipulate pawns, or those individuals who have something they want. When a psychopath needs a resource, they will manipulate pawns to get it for them or ask for it directly. Many pawns are so enamored by the persona of the psychopath that they will give them whatever is needed, no matter how inappropriate or outrageous. I have actually seen this play out several times. And then manipulating management and coworkers. During this phase, the psychopath will manipulate others toward their own end. The goal is to set up a scam within the organizational structure to fulfill their need for excitement, advancement, and power. Winning for them almost always involves financial and power rewards, such as a paycheck earned for rarely completed work and increasing levels of authority. So, what are you supposed to do as someone with a work ethic and a sense of integrity to protect yourself? Rule number one. I need to pause before I read rule number one. Rule number one is a little bit silly, but unfortunately it has to be said. So rule number one, do not label anyone a psychopath. Remember, we're just getting a little bit of knowledge in this book, and that can be a very dangerous thing. So rule number two is build and maintain relationships. Your best defense is taking the opportunity to interact with others on the job and develop a reputation as a friendly, competent, talented, and loyal person. Rule number three is understand company rules and options. Read your manual or policies, or both. Know the procedures in place to handle complaints. Don't be afraid to ask questions regarding policies and procedures you don't understand. That is hopefully what HR is there to help you with, is understanding all of those rules and giving you the training, so not only do you know how to do your job, but you can steer clear of trouble. And then rule number four is avoid being labeled a complainer. And I think this is one of the most valuable rules. Learn how to pick your battles and rephrase your issues in a positive manner. A reputation as a complainer only hurts your credibility long term. So the only one that negatively impacts is you. So this book has further advice. Like I said, I don't want to read you the whole thing. And it gives you further advice and breaks down some steps for working with a psychopathic boss and further information on working with a psychopathic coworker. However, where the book failed, especially in a lot of the reviews, is that there are stories mixed in, fictional stories, although you can't tell because some of the stories, the authors do say, well, we witnessed this in action, but that there's no follow-up. So and they don't give any context. So these stories are mixed throughout the book, and most of them, I'm assuming, are fictional. And they're just kind of jam-packed in or shoved into a chapter in a random way where it just kind of is very jarring, or you think that you're going to continue on with some more in-depth information on a certain point the authors are making, and then it's just boom, random story, and then it's not even the whole story because they're telling the story in sections. I did like the examples of, in some of the stories, of this would be what the behavior looks like, because sometimes if we haven't dealt with a situation, we don't know what that would look like or how that would play out in front of us in real life. The other thing that takes away from the book is a lot of people, it gives you a lot of information. What is psychopathy? What is sociopathy? What is antisocial personality disorder? What do these things look like? What are these characteristics? How do these people generally act? So you get all of this good information, And then when it comes to terms of things to do, I mean, I basically read you the top four, and then it really, in terms of advice, in terms of protecting yourself, in terms of covering yourself if someone was to come after you or your job, the book actually leaves you hanging there. However, I will end on a positive note, and that is I really appreciated the section with advice on how to screen candidates and hire successful, qualified, desirable employees. That is my review of Snakes in Suits When Psychopaths Go to Work. I recommend picking up a copy. Let me know if you have read this book in the comments, and let me know if you would like to read this book in the comments. Perhaps I will do a giveaway. All right, that is it for now. I will see you next time.